There's nothing quite as comforting as gathering around with mom friends and sharing stories. Stories have a way of making us feel better, and they're great reminders that no family is perfect, and that's okay. So join us as we share some stories and laugh, learn, and grow together. It's the iMom Podcast. Welcome to the iMom Podcast. I'm Abby, and Susan, Chloe, and Megan are here once again. Valentine's Day is tomorrow. If you're listening to this episode, the day it comes out. And maybe you love this day. Maybe for you, it's like a day that just feels like any other. Or maybe you dread this day because you're like, we are not a romantic couple, and it's just romance is not our thing. So today's episode, Keep the Romance Alive. Susan is telling the story, and it's just, romance is not just for February 14th, but if you feel like it's lacking in your marriage, hopefully we can help you today.
So when we dated, and we dated for a long time, we met in college, we didn't get married for 5 years, we dated on and off. But when we dated, I was the creative one. Mark is not creative. He's very black and white, and I planned lots of fun things for us to do all the time. Like I did scavenger hunts and all these, everything, because I'm get it done with fun. And he loved that. And that was one of the things that attracted me to him, is that I was fun, because he's an intense person. And so I brought the fun. Well, after we had Megan, which was literally 2 weeks before our 1 year anniversary. So we got pregnant right away, had Megan, and then Emily was right behind it. And one thing led to another. Before you know, we had, 3 kids, and then we jumped to 5 when we adopted. And we were super busy, and I had no more creative time for him. My creativity was going to the children, whether they were involved in something or throwing birthday parties or just work. It was all drained. And he became more a teammate, just like all hands on deck. Me not ordering, but sometimes he felt like I was ordering. Hey, can you get that? Can you pack the kids' lunch this morning? Can you do this? It was more like a coworker in this house instead of a romantic partner. And he really missed that. And so there was a season in our life where it really came to a head. And we've gone to marital counseling almost our whole marriage, on and off. But there was this season where he said, I just don't feel like I'm a priority. I don't feel like you love me or are in love with me. And my feelings had not changed for him one iota. It's just that the person he married was now redirecting her energy to the children and to other things. And so I realized that I needed to find ways to reserve romantic energy for him.
It's funny because I don't think that your energy toward your children was romantic.
No,
but
it was creative.
Yeah. And that's interesting, because that's how you expressed romance to him, was through creativity, and it was being channeled into your kids. I wonder if there's other examples of that, because not everybody is creative in the way they express their love.
Because I wouldn't say mine is creativity, but I would say it's more like intentionality, because, I recently asked Trent this, and I don't know why I did. It was a question. It may have been something from iMom, but I asked him, like, what do I do that makes you feel the most loved? And he said, when you ask about my day and you just listen, and I love doing that. I want to be intentional about looking him in the eyes and paying attention to what he's saying, but that makes him feel loved. I'm like, that's no skin.
That's easy.
Sure, I can do that, So, because I'm not creative, but
So I wonder if, when you guys have kids, if you're going to check in with the kids at the end of their school day and be like, hey, how was the day? How was your day? What did you do today? Blah, blah, blah. And by the time you get their whole story and are dealing and processing all of the things and emoting like with them through all those things, if you're going to be like, I can't handle another person's day. I've got all of these days that I've worked with. That's interesting.
Attention. He likes
attention.
He wants attention.
You
might not have the energy to give him attention.
Megan, what do you think? Do you know how Hampton and how you like to express that toward him?
So it's interesting. It kind of reminds me of the love languages thing. Yeah. I mean, he's definitely words of affirmation, which is so funny that we're married, because I have to say, I have never been one that's been really good at like encouraging or affirming. I'm more, my love language is quality time. So I think a lot of the times people give in the way that they like to receive. And so with my friends and with my family and whoever it is, I like to show them love by doing things with them and spending time with them and talking to them and whatever it might be. So that was a big change for me that I had to learn, like, okay, he likes to verbally hear it from me. And so I try to I think you're going to touch on this later. This is on one of our iMom articles, but I like to write him a note because I've learned with myself, for some reason, it's hard for me to verbally say it or I forget.
Yeah.
And I will think about it like if I'm in the shower or whatever, when I have a second to myself to think when I'm not with kids, and I'll be like, oh, I need to tell him that, or I need to tell him like what an awesome job he's doing, or I'm so proud of him with this work thing or whatever it might be. And so I have to write it down either via text or in a letter. And one thing I actually did one year for Valentine's Day, because I knew we weren't really going to do anything, was, I can't remember where I got this idea, but I got a whole stack of pink Post-it notes, and I wrote on each Post-it note like one thing I loved about him or something that I was proud of him for. And I stuck them on our mirror in the shape of a heart, which you guys know me. That's like really mushy and far for me to push it. But he loved it. He really loved it. And so it showed me that he really likes those words of affirmation.
Is he romantic?
He is not. I would say it definitely is work for him to like think of a romantic date or whatever it might be. However, I say that, and the other night I was supposed to have a bunch of friends over to the house, and we didn't get home from the airport until like 2 a.m. And we got home, and there's a room that had some work done and it needed to be painted. And he stayed up until 4 a.m. cleaning up the room and painting it so that I wouldn't be like embarrassed when I had friends come over. And I told him, I was like, that is so thoughtful of you. Like I was passed out. I was going to bed. Like there was no way I would stay up until 4 a.m. after traveling all day.
Yeah. Right. So to me, like my husband is not romantic, but he's very thoughtful, kind of like what you just said, Megan. He's an acts of service guy, and I know that that's how he expresses love. But as far as like lighting a candle or like getting flowers, and like I don't need those things necessarily, and so he doesn't. I guess he has tapped into the fact that that's not how he's going to express love. But like, how do you experience romance then? Like if the flowers and the card and the candles are kind of cliche, what is romantic to you?
What is the definition of romance?
I know what I enjoy, but I don't know how I don't know why. Like I like when we do something like that we don't normally do, you know, like I like when we go to a new restaurant. He's thought of, like yesterday we went on a date because I'm going out of town this weekend. And I said, where are we going? And he said, I've already picked the place. And he didn't tell me. And I was like, okay, cool. That already like made me feel really good, you know, like, and he kind of like planned the night and he like looked up the place and, you know, I knew you said you were craving this earlier this month.
So thoughtfulness is romantic to you, because
that's what I was going to say with Chloe too. I think it's the fact that like he thought about you,
yes,
on his own, and like, you know, whatever it was, like acts of service is not my love language, but the fact that he thought about me in a time where he could easily just gone to bed, that's what really the thought. When they say the thought, it's the thought that counts.
Yeah,
it's kind of true.
Yeah, because when you're, you know, first dating or something, you're like texting or talking like, oh, I've been thinking about you. Like, yeah, like you think about me all the time now. Like I'm always around you. Like, you know, but it's like when it's kind of like what you were saying, Megan, when you were like, oh, I think about these little things. Like, oh, I need to tell Hampton that. Like, that's really sweet. That's really thoughtful. You're thinking about him when like he's not around and thinking about ways that you can encourage him, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. Susan, do you have something that you're going to say?
Well, I'm just looking at the definitions of romance because it's so interesting. Some of them, they're very different depending on what dictionary you use. But this one says a feeling of excitement and mystery associated with love. So in your case, Chloe, that is true.
That feeling of excitement and mystery. Mystery.
Meeting him at the restaurant.
Right? I think the mystery part is interesting because, like, for your example, Chloe, where he had already planned it, you're like, wow, he thought about me during the day. There's something mysterious about that. Like, I don't know all of his thoughts. I'm not in his head.
Yes.
But he has thought of me. You know, as much as I feel connected with this guy, we are still two separate people, and he has taken time to think of me and plan for me.
Yeah. And then I think with that, because like one of I'm just thinking about our date last night. One of the things I really enjoyed was like he had told me a story that I had never heard before. And I was like something that had happened to him. I was like, oh, this is really interesting. We don't know everything about each other. And it was just funny. Like it was an insignificant story, but it was just one I had never heard.
Yeah. You know, it's romantic to me. This is going to sound really lame, but when my husband helps me clean and the house is like spotless, especially if it's at the right time of day and we can like dim the lights. So then I'm in a very tidy house. That's hot.
Like, you and I are about as opposite as
Yeah,
we
for
can get.
real. I'm like, I don't care.
Well, it's because it takes away any of the stress in the
That
room.
makes sense.
Like that removes any distractions, and I can just feel at peace.
And
in
you
this.
don't yell. I'm
And
just
I'm not going to yell about anything.
No, that makes sense.
It gives me a peaceful space. Like the space that I'm in is very important to me, and so it gives like that's romantic that he is helping me create a space of peace. You know,
like that.
why? So how are we opposites? What is?
Well, I just,
You couldn't care less.
cleaning
if there's-
together. Mark is like you. He's a D. He's an intense cleaner. It's not fun. Like I can't even cook with him because like we got to get it done.
Yeah.
It's not like, let's have a glass of wine and cook together. Yay. And I'll float around the kitchen. No, it's never like that. He's banging stuff,
Yeah.
It's not peaceful.
Well, we'll clean. He'll be like, so what do we need to get done? I'm like, this, and this. And as we get this, and this done, I'm like adding to the list. I'm like,
Oh my
and this,
God.
and add this. I know. So those are things that are romantic to us. But we have an article on iMom that is very, very popular, 41 Ways to Romance Your Husband. And let's look down this list, ladies, and pick one or two things that you think would really mean something to your husband. For you to do this for him or around him, to romance him, what's one that you think would mean something?
Well, my husband's love language is physical touch. So if I sent him a sexy text or number 41 just said yes, that's all it takes. That's it. That's honestly for him.
Sit on his lap. That's a good one, too.
We're pretty affectionate, so I do things like that.
Sorry, Megan. I'm sorry. She's grossed out.
She is.
Number 34 on the list, tell him how proud you are of him. I don't know if that's romantic necessarily, but it would boost him. Like that is a big deal to him.
He's a 3, right?
He is.
Yeah.
Yes, he wants to know. He wants to know that I'm proud of him. He wants to know that I admire him and appreciate what he does. And so, yeah, I think that would be
If you don't know what a 3 is, Chloe
yeah,
is
it's the
Enneagram classification
Yeah,
girl.
sorry, the achiever.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so being recognized for what you do is important.
Oh my gosh. Number 26. If I offered Trent a massage, I think he would just fall out. He'd be so happy. I'm not a physical touch person. I'm just not like,
thank you.
It's so sad. Trent will be like, can you like scratch my head? Can you scratch my back? I'm like, this is sad, Trent.
That
I'm
is
sorry.
Mark. That is Mark. Physical touch. And then he tells me, I'm never doing it right. He's instructing me on the massage the whole time. And I'm like, I'm not good at this. Why do you always ask me to do this?
It's sad. It's like, and I'm not physical touch adverse. I just don't.
Okay, so here's a tip from someone who is physical touch.
Oh, yes.
Like
You are just like my husband. This is really eye-opening to me.
when you lay in bed, just put your hand out and put your hand on his arm, or like I'll tuck my hand under my husband, like he'll be laying on his side. I'll just tuck my hand under his side, just because I want to physically be touching him.
Okay.
That's my love language, not his. He probably couldn't care less,
Okay,
or
I
maybe
do
he's
that
like,
stuff.
so like, I mean, maybe that would satisfy what he's,
I
he
put
wouldn't-
my cold feet on him when I want
That
to.
doesn't count. That does not count. No. Megan, did you already say which one? Did I miss it?
Which one I am or which one he is?
What, on this list of 41 ways to romance your husband, what would mean something?
Yeah, I said the letter.
Oh, the letter.
Which number is that?
Did I just make it up? No, I saw it.
made
on
it
there.
up.
She
The
made
love
it.
note in
Oh,
the
hide a
wallet?
love note in his wallet?
Love note.
That
Sorry,
was number
sorry.
one. You just did the first one you saw. You cheated. You're like, yes, Abby, I'll complete your assignment. That one.
I mean, it is true.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so we said we were going to do an episode that was more like sexy talk, and then Megan vetoed it hardcore. So we're not going to do that.
Why though? We got to explain it in case they're just not
Because
listening.
he doesn't want to hear. She doesn't want to hear mom talk about sex.
Exactly.
I don't.
Susan is my mom. I don't want to hear about my parents. I don't want the world to hear about
Oh,
it.
get over it.
Well, so here's one thing that I did that I was really proud of myself for, and I don't know if I'll ever do it again, but I So you've kind of gotten a little sampling of maybe how I'm a little bit intense sometimes, and schedule things and whatever. I sent my husband a text and I said I added something to our Google Calendar. I'm sorry. And
Nice.
So then he's like, okay. And he looked at it and he's like, I'll be there.
Oh,
that's
that's cute. That's a good idea.
Like the whole idea of scheduling it is not romantic, but to actually initiate and to tell him I'm interested in you and in this. And, I think that can.
I think scheduling is romantic because I like scheduling and it means it's important.
Yeah,
But
we do too.
Yeah, I like it.
Do you schedule, Megan?
See, we're forcing her to talk about this. She's not going to. Megan, I don't think your mic is on. We can't hear you.
I have 2 children, guys. I have 2 kids. They didn't.
Oh, so you schedule it once every 2 years?
Oh, no. I would not still be married if that were the case.
Oh my gosh. All right. So let's get back into territory when Megan is comfortable. So what about romance when you feel, the word that I wrote in my notes here is frumpy. I can't think of a better word, but where you're just kind of feeling like maybe because the kids have been hanging on you or because you just have one of those days where you're feeling icky, like how do you not turn away his not even like sex advances, but like just yes, Susan.
Susan's raising her hand. I do have a story about this. It's similar. You can tell me if it doesn't really fit. But one time I was out to lunch on Valentine's Day with a couple of girlfriends, and they said, "Oh, we have to go." The lunch was at a restaurant in the mall, and they said, "Oh, we need to swing by." They looked at each other. We need to swing by Victoria's Secret and get something for Valentine's Day. And I'm like, "Okay, I'm not going." And they're like, "Susan, you have to. You need to wear something sexy tonight. It's Valentine's Day." And I go, "I have never worn anything sexy to bed in my entire life. I don't have to do that for my husband. He doesn't care. He just takes it off. What does it matter?"
That's an expensive
and
thing
they said,
to just
"Oh, no, this is really bad for your marriage." I mean, they put me on a total guilt trip, that insinuating that I had to dress up for my husband.
Wow.
My point is this. I just think the world puts this impression on us as women that we have to look a certain way. We have to dress a certain way. We have to not be ourselves in the bedroom, for a better word. But I think that's wrong.
Yeah.
Don't think you have to be like somebody else or movies or whatever like that. That's not romance necessarily.
Because I think for me, like one of the sexiest things about, my husband, and this is a clue into I'm sorry if this is too personal, but he really does care about what do I like? What does he like? It's not about like, what do we see in movies? What do you hear from your friends? It's like, this is between us. It's about us too, and if it doesn't work for so-and-so, it doesn't matter. If it works for us, it works for us.
Yeah. Right. And if you like to dress up, no shade, that's great.
Right.
But don't feel like you have to do what you see in culture.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And most guys, I assume, speaking for my husband, he does not, the extra 5 pounds now and then, he does not care.
You don't have to look a certain way. He married you for you.
Yes.
I'm like, I just got out of the shower and I blew my hair dry. And I'm like, I need to straighten my hair. He's like, you don't need to straighten your hair.
I cannot, y'all, listen, I cannot tell you the amount of times, because we work from home a couple days a week, my hair is so greasy. It's like a no camera on day. I'm wearing the same t-shirt I wore yesterday. I look disgusting. Trent comes home from work. Oh my gosh, you look so beautiful. I'm like, what? Like
Those pajama pants are those pajama pants are so sexy. I'm like,
are they? Yeah.
Okay, so we're back in the safe zone, Megan. I promise.
Megan has not said a word.
No, she's being very quiet.
She's thinking of
shaking
all
her
the time
head.
she dresses up.
I don't kiss and tell, y'all.
Such a lady.
So I was reading some research on a key to intimacy in relationship, because that's really what it comes down to. Romance, sex, all it's about intimacy in your relationship is self-disclosure. So according to research, the more couples disclose private thoughts and feelings and personal things about their goals, fears, dreams to one another, the happier they tend to be. Conversely, when a relationship is struggling, you often stop sharing these things with one another and you revert back to talking small talk and superficial things. And, that's... And I have had this conversation with my ex-husband, and so I feel free to say this. I went to counseling while we were going through our divorce, and my therapist was like, there are levels to intimacy, and I think I maybe have even shared this on the podcast before. He's like, you have no intimacy with a complete stranger. Once you know someone's name, you have a level of intimacy with them. You know each other's names. And from there, you get deeper and deeper and deeper. And sexual intimacy is the second to deepest level. The deepest level of intimacy you have with someone is spiritual intimacy, and really being able to talk about those fears, dreams, those things that are really deep and meaningful to your soul. And so if you don't have that intimacy, you can only go so deep. You can only go so deep depending on that relationship you have with the other person. So, and the thing is too, if you are disclosing something to your husband and you're trying to do this self-disclosure thing, but he's not sensitive and doesn't reply positively, you say, I really got emotional today when such and such happened. And his response is, oh, you shouldn't have been so emotional about that. There was nothing to cry about with that. It can do the opposite, where you then work your way out of that intimate moment. So, maybe if you are in a relationship where there's not a lot of romance, that's a good step in the right direction. Start to open up, start to try to share things that are a little bit deeper than just that, small talk and surface level stuff. Another thing that one of our iMom writers wrote about to kind of put a spark back into your marriage if you're feeling like it's kind of mundane. It's not necessarily romantic, but she called it a peak moment. And I think that, Susan, this is something that I imagine you would do, because as an Enneagram 7, we were just talking about 3s, you like to have those things that you look forward to, and same with you, Megan, that thing to look forward to. And so that's what she says a peak moment is. A peak moment is that moment in the week that gives you something to just look forward to. So maybe it is, hey, we know that this weekend we're going to try a new breakfast spot after we go to church. Or this week it's going to be cold and we're going to light a fire in the fireplace on Saturday night.
Nice.
Just having these, it doesn't have to be complicated, it doesn't have to be extravagant, but having these things can change your relationship because, it changes your attitude. It gives you happier conversations. Just little things like that. Just trying to be more intentional with like your time and your energy with your spouse can spark some more chemistry and some more romance. And, I just thought that was a neat idea.
And I think those are the kind of things that really make a marriage last, because that physical attraction, that chemistry that you have in the beginning, it does, as you get to know each other really well, if you don't have those deeper connections, like you said, that physical attraction can wane.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It becomes redundant almost.
Yeah.
And so you need that deeper emotional connection, that spiritual connection that you mentioned.
Yeah. So I want to close this episode with a challenge and some encouragement. So if you are feeling like your marriage is becoming a little bit stale, we have a lot of ideas on iMom, including a 30-day marriage challenge. It's a printable. It's super cute. What do you think about the 4 of us taking this 30-day marriage challenge?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I could take it.
I could
do it.
So, for instance, day number 1 is ask what can I help you with today? So ask your husband, what can I help you with today? Day number 16 is thank him for all he does for your family.
So they're easy.
They're very easy. They're very, very simple. There's no scavenger hunts. I don't think there's a scavenger hunt, although you could do that if you wanted to.
But it would be cool if we took it for the month of February and then had people does it really produce better feelings about your marriage?
Exactly.
Because it's little stuff.
I love that. Yep. So the day this episode is coming out, it's the day before Valentine's Day. So maybe start it tomorrow on Valentine's Day, or if you're listening to this later in the week, and then mid-March or so, email us. Let us know how the 30-day marriage challenge goes, and just how it changes your marriage or changes your attitude toward your marriage.
Or if your husband even notices.
Or if your husband notices. Yeah. Sometimes I'll do the things to text your husband every day for however many days, and he's like,
what are you doing?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my gosh.
What is up?
Yeah.
I'm on to you. And I'm like, you know what? It's still the same. I'm still putting in an effort.
Yeah.
All right, you can find the link to the 30-day marriage challenge and an email to let us know how it goes in the show notes. And make sure you subscribe to the iMom Minute, because we want to send you lots of good stuff to help your marriage. And thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to the iMom podcast. iMom is the motherhood program of the nonprofit organization Family First. Along with our fatherhood program, All Pro Dad, we exist to help you love your family well. Subscribe to our daily email, the iMom Minute, by going to imom.com/subscribe and get tons of great ideas, insight, and inspiration. The I'm On podcast is hosted by me, Abby Watts, along with Susan Merrill, Megan Tigner, and Chloe Blumenthal.